Hello. So, gonna continue with this game. It's been a little while because I was starting with Yakuza 5. So yeah. Hi, how are you? So yeah, let's go. Start. Seduce Me too. And again.
Hold on there! Before you start the game, I need to ask you a few things. Don't want you getting lost now.
Let me know how the volume is and what I want to say before Kay interrupted me.
First of all, have you read the first story?
Okay.
Seduce Me the Otome? Like, seriously read it. No
Yes,
skimming, no pretending to read it. No. It's okay if you haven't, but there are a lot of things in this game that you won't understand unless you fully experienced and understood that story first.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Awesome. Next question. You do know this is Matthew's route, right? You know,
yeah.
That cute fourth son, the one who made Simon Tabby, the creepy doll?
Oh, I know. And it really is a creepy doll.
Oh, awesome! All right then. Matthew's such a cutie, isn't he? I mean,
He is.
Not like he's a kid or anything.
Right.
Anyway, I have one last question for you. Some people like hearing the trigger warnings before they start games, while others don't really care and just want to play. It's cool either way, but do you want to know about some of the content listed in the game?
Sure, why
No
not?
problem. It's my pleasure. Well, this game is recommended for players ages 18 and up. Trigger warnings include suicide, war, torture, mentions of rape, and a large amount of violence and sexual content. Don't worry though, any sex scene choice you encounter is completely up to you. You can play this game without needing to go through the sex scenes and still get the good endings. Consent is important.
Right.
I think that should be everything.
Not everything.
Phew, that took a while.
You forgot something.
Huh? What did I forget?
You forgot about the disclaimer.
Oh, crap! Oh, how could I have forgotten about that?
It's fine, I'll take care of it.
Right.
This game was produced by Michaela Laws using the Ren'Py visual novel engine. We truly hope you enjoy this story.
Oh, I know I will.
Thanks, Diana. Now, don't you have a war to go fight?
I do. I just wanted to make sure everything was in order before the story began. I'll take my leave now.
Thanks, Di.
Do not call me Di.
Okay, Diana.
Anyway, we really do hope you like the story. Have fun! See you at the end.
Okay.
This has gone on for long enough! I will not let them trap me in a corner like this!
Hi, Demon Lord, you dick.
Azira!
Husband.
You're still here. Why have you not left like the others?
What do you want?
Do you honor our marriage?
I don't know. Did you
What?
honor our bond when you slept with that whore?
I said, do you honor our marriage?
I do honor it, unlike you.
Then you still stand by our bond?
Why are you asking me these questions?
Because I need your energy.
I'm so confused.
What? What do you...
I'm giving you your physical form back. You should be thankful.
What? What are you?
What in the... I could only stare at what was in front of me. I could hardly believe it was real, but there it was right before my eyes. How did my life even got into this point? Yeah, that was freaky. As I my pen, gripped the pen in my hand, I let my mind settle into the situation. My fingers gently slid over the pen surface, nervous and softly shaking. This was happening.
Hey, is everything okay?
Hi, Matthew. I glanced up to see Matthew looking at me with worry. I could only shake my head and smile before finally signing my name on the paper in front of me. Looking at my own name made me somewhat giddy, especially since it was next to Matthew's. So, what do you think? Matthew looked over and gently rotated the paper on the table to look at what I had written.
Thank you for coming to our wedding.
What's wrong?
Nothing. It's just really cool to see our names together.
I felt a blush run across my cheeks. Was he thinking the same thing I was? Looking at our names together made me feel warm and fuzzy on the inside. Looking at Matthew, who was grinning ear to ear, which made me do the same, his smile was practically infectious.
Anyways, we are very happy you could all attend. It means so much to us that you support our step forward, and we hope you enjoy the reception. That sounds good, right?
Aww. Yeah, that sounds good. Wedding preparations were nothing like I expected. I had organized parties before, but my own wedding had become a new foreign adventure for me to figure out with Matthew. Invitations, budgets, the dress, the ceremony venue, the reception hall. It was all crazy. Still, I was glad to know that I was able to do this to be with Matthew. He seemed as excited about this as I was. There was something missing, however. Hey, Matthew?
Huh? What is it?
Do you think your mom would approve of this? The curiosity of the idea had been eating at me ever since he proposed to me. I knew he wasn't a fan of his father. I'm not a fan of his father, the Demon Lord, because I hate him. But his mother was a different story. According to him, she had always been supportive of him right up until he left. Matthew rubbed his head, staring at the table, and thought,
Well, I don't know. I think she'd be surprised I'm marrying a human. But I think she'd be okay with it in the end.
Aww.
She is my mother, after all.
Matthew only smiled and shrugged. I knew it was a bit out of left field to ask, but I was curious. I wished his mother could be able to attend the wedding, but I knew that would never be an option. Huh? My thoughts instantly derailed as I caught a ghostly whisper that seemed to reverberate in the air. I couldn't pin down the location, but I knew that I had heard something.
Huh? What is it?
I heard someone whisper your demon name. You didn't hear that?
Hear what?
I looked at Matthew in surprise. He didn't hear the whisper? I'm surprised. It had spoken his true name, his true demon name, Sakeru. I shook my head and rubbed my temples. Maybe I was just imagining things.
Help me.
How does he not hear that? There it was again. I stood up from my seat and looked around, trying to figure out where the voice was coming from. How did you not hear that? Who's there?
Whoa! Whoa! What's wrong?
I looked at Matthew. How could he not hear it? I wasn't crazy. How? Does he not hear that? Matthew raised an eyebrow, unsure of what I meant. Why didn't he get it? What was so hard to understand?
But I don't hear anything.
I know I'm not making sense, but someone keeps saying your real name.
My real name? Zakeru?
Yeah, she keeps saying it, and help me. Matthew slowly rose from his seat, looking down at the table in confusion and worry. I could tell he believed me, but wasn't sure how to respond. Are you sure you couldn't hear it?
I'm sure.
That is weird. Matthew looked up at me and walked around the table to stand next to me, and I turned my body to face him. He looked into my eyes and gently brought his hands to my cheeks.
Does she sound like anyone we know?
No. I stared at as Matthew continued to look into my eyes. What was he looking for? Eventually, Matthew leaned in and placed a soft kiss on my forehead. What?
I'll look into it, okay? For right now, don't worry about it and ignore it. It might be an illusion or something. This
No.
place is so full of magic, so it could be that.
No. I could tell Matthew was worried. He wasn't making sense. However, I knew that we had a lot on our minds, so this was something that needed to wait. Maybe he just wanted me not to worry. Still, I couldn't help but be worried about it. Same, dude. Matthew gently released me and gave me one of his goofy smiles.
Alright, well, I think that's enough work for today. Let's save the rest for tomorrow, okay?
I want to know who that voice was, dude. Who could it be? Like his mother or something? I want to know, dude. I nodded. Today had been pretty stressful, so rest would definitely be good. Matthew led me back up to our room and got ready for bed. I, however, watched as Matthew absently ruffled his... I don't know if I pronounced that right. Ruffled his hair despite his kid-like... wow, words. Ugh. Oh, screw it. I'm not even gonna try to butcher that anymore. He was still a man and he was the one I was going to marry. What was even better about our love was that we both loved every part of each other. I couldn't stop gushing over his eyes, his fluffy hair, his kisses. He drove me crazy as he made me smile every single day I spent with him. I didn't help that he was also sexy underneath the baggy clothes he wore. No one was privileged enough to see him bare, and I was the lucky woman given that permission. A simple ruffle of his hair was enough to catch my attention, and I stared at him. I really loved him. A small fire burned in my core, letting me know of my sexual attraction to him, but I wasn't sure of whether or not to go with my gut or just sleep. His face, he's so adorable. Oh, I love Matthew, he's so adorable. Oh my god. Looking up and down his body, I really couldn't help but let my libido take control. I let out a soft moan, loud enough for Matthew to hear. He froze, turning to look at me with a blush across his face. Oh my god, you're so adorable.
Huh?
Matthew? I was nervous, but I decided to tease him. I would have to go all the way. I slowly began to strip off my clothes, revealing my underwear and bra. Matthew's eyes darkened into a lustful gaze as I gently ran my fingers over my stomach and between my... Wow, okay. We did a lot of work today, but I don't want to sleep just yet. I gently leaned forward and climbed onto the bed on my hands and knees, letting him enjoy the sight. Matthew turned to watch me slowly, not taking his eyes away from me as I crawled forward to his side of the bed. I licked my lips, happy to know that my teasing was working. I finally stopped moving forward and got up on my knees, leaning back a bit, stretching my arms behind my head. Why not make the night a bit better with me? I almost couldn't recognize my own voice. However, I went along with it. He wasn't the only one in the relationship that could set a mood, even though he was an incubus. As Matthew stared, I felt a soft heat envelope my core and rushed through my body. Another moan coming out of my mouth. I looked into Matthew's eyes, seeing them glow a loving but lust-filled gold. It slowly faded as the enthrallment. Wow, I can't pronounce words. Enthrallment. He cast down me, ran through my body, making me hotter. Oh, good lord. That's a screenshot for a thumbnail. Oh god. Matthew slowly began to strip off his jacket and shirt, letting me enjoy the show. Before he licked his lips, he knew exactly how to respond to my teasing, and despite it not being fair, he used his inhuman charms to make my mind melt at the sight of him. Oh my god, Matthew. As he pulled his shirt off of his body, he held it out to the side, letting me get a good look at his chest. I felt myself lick my own lips at the sight.
Then let me make it better.
Oh dear lord. That was all he needed to say before coming over to me and crawling over my body, capturing my lips with his in a heated kiss. His arms wrapped around my waist and his other hand gently slid down behind my back and gingerly held my rear. I let my legs move out from underneath so that he could kneel between them, gently grinding my knee against him. He smirked against my lips as he gave a playfully slow grind with his hips against my core. My mind went crazy at his teasing foreplay. He pulled me against his body, squeezing me with his arm around my waist. Before deepening the kiss between us, I let a moan escape my throat and became lost in his mouth as he claimed my lips for himself. I loved feeling him touch me and hold me to him. He was the man I loved, and I wanted to give him everything as he gave me just as much and more. Our sex became just another way to express our desire and love for each other. Soon enough, we were both panting and moaning hotly as we made deep and passionate love. Our clothes were, I can't pronounce that word, around the room, but our focus was in each other's eyes. His moans echoed mine as he kissed and nipped over my neck and shoulders. However, he always came back to stare into my eyes and kiss me deeply as he made love to me as I made love to him. I loved him and wanted to be held by him and be full of him forever. My heart belonged to him, and he was a dream come true. To feel his love for me was a blissful treasure I would cherish and experience for the rest of my life. He always knew how to find my sweetest spots and knew the ways to make me buck and scream his name. We rose higher into our pleasure, and I can't pronounce that word, until we both ran over our limits and ever so gently floated back into the loving feeling of our embrace. Matthew could only pant and hold me in his arms, sweetly petting my hair and kissing over my forehead.
I love you so much.
I love you too. My heart fluttered at the sound of his voice. He was my everything, and to feel him in my arms made me happy beyond compare. I happily embraced the darkness of sleep as Matthew continued to hold me in his arms. Aww. The darkness was meant to be peaceful, sleep was meant to be relaxing. However, my mind began to wander to what happened earlier that evening. Hearing that voice made me worried. Something was off, something was going on, and I was the one who could sense it. Why though? Excuse me. I let the darkness seep into my mind a little longer, unsure of what to think of it. What the hell was that? Diana? What? The hell is going on, dude? I opened my blah 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 words. I opened my eyes and found myself no longer in my bed, but on a stone-cold floor, staring at a high marble ceiling. Despite feeling foreign textures beneath my skin, I vaguely knew where I was. The Abyssal Plains? Demon World. I was in the main hall of the Demon Lord's castle. I remembered the sight from the vision the boys gave me when Diana first appeared. Why was I here, though? Where... Diana, are you okay? My instincts forced me to turn to the sound, and I saw someone I did not expect. Diana? Held in the air was Diana, hanging from 4 long lines of chains that were attached to her wrists and ankles. She was spread out like a star, and the chains were pulling her body in different directions, seemingly ready to rip her in half. My mind couldn't fathom why she was in this illusion. If this was one, she looked so different, but I can tell it was her. Why was she in chains, though?
Release me!
Oh, I will.
Matthew? Matthew's voice reverberated with a cold demonic resonance, and I drew my eyes toward him in shock. There he was, sitting on the throne, practically lounging on it. He was still in his human form, but his eyes were glowing an unnaturally gold color. What is happening, bro? What was even more odd was that he was smirking at Diana. I had never seen him smirk like that, like he was enjoying seeing someone's pain.
I'll kill you once I'm bored of this game. Your struggle is just so much fun to watch.
What the hell?
You think this is funny, brat?
Matthew glared as the chains pulled harder on Diana's limbs. I flinched from the sound of her body stretching, almost hearing the sound of bones cracking. Oh no, God, dude. Diana, however, sneered at Matthew in reply.
Do you really think calling me a brat is going to help you?
Matthew, what the hell?
Well, that's what you are. A brat who abuses his toys until they break.
What? I could only stare at the two, completely confused by what I was witnessing. I tried to speak out, but suddenly my voice disappeared before any sound could be formed in my throat. Gripping my neck, I looked down, trying to figure out why I couldn't speak. There was some sort of vice pressed through my vocal cords, not allowing me to mutter even a single sound. Its weight made me almost choke. However, I looked back up as Matthew gave a sickly, evil chuckle.
That's right. I like to play with my toys until they're of no use to me. That's how toys work.
Dear God, dude. Matthews, I know this might be just a dream, but oh my God, I'm getting chills from this. Oh God. I had chills, dude. Matthew stood up slowly from the throne and his lips curled into a devilish smile as his tongue ran along his upper lip.
And when I'm done with them, I destroy them.
And what of the human? Is she just another toy?
What? I looked at Diana, seeing her move her head to look at me before turning back to Matthew in realization I was physically there. I wasn't just watching the event, I was a part of it. Matthew looked back at me and his face shifted to an innocent smile. My heart desperately clung to the possibility that he wasn't as evil as he was presenting himself to be. His smile pulled at my heartstring, giving me hope that he was just playing some sick joke.
She's not just a toy.
My heart dropped in my chest. What? Matthew tilted his head cutely, giving me a disgusting feeling of adoration and fear from the sight. Never had I imagined feeling like this while looking at the one I loved, yet here I was.
She's my favorite toy. I can't break the toy that I have the most fun with. Especially when that toy gives me so much energy.
Like a predator, Matthew began to walk towards me, passing underneath Diana's hanging form. I couldn't move, but he knelt down and cupped his hands around my chin.
I'll keep you with me forever and ever.
I'm so confused. Fear seared my nerves. I did not want to be near this man. This wasn't Matthew. It couldn't be. There was no way. As he stood up, I felt tears run down my face. If this was a nightmare, I wanted to wake up, please. Matthew's hand pointed at the throne and glided through the air back to me. The sound of chains echoed through the room, forcing me to follow it and see a chain flying at me. What the hell, dude? I tried to scream as it leaped towards my throat. From thin air, a shackle collar formed around my neck, connecting to the chain as it reached me, and I was pulled forward roughly through the air before landing beside the throne with a painful thud.
No!
Oh, God. Diana screamed as a large cage suddenly formed around my body, making me its prisoner. I scrambled to my knees and gripped the bars surrounding me, now frightened beyond compare. Oh my God! Matthew let out a terrifying laugh, sending more waves of fright through my body. This wasn't happening.
This world is mine. No one can stand in my way anymore. Not James, not the Demon Lord, and not you, Diana.
Bro! Smirking wildly, Matthew looked at Diana, raising his arms across his body.
And I've grown tired of you.
Oh my... Oh, God. Before Matthew could move, my fear and anger quickly bubbled in my chest, one word pushing past the blockage in my throat. Stop! As my voice ripped through the air, everything went black. My body, however, sat up in bed in shock from what I had seen. My scream reverberated through the room as I let it sink in that I was awake and all of that had just been a nightmare. Despite it all feeling real, that gave me chills. I was no longer in a cage. I wasn't in a room with Diana being ripped apart. I wasn't...
Ah! What?
I shot my head to the side to see Matthew in bed with me, sitting up beside me and rubbing his head. A heavy tiredness weighed down the eyelids over his frightened eyes, but my mind suddenly began to seize in fear just from looking at him. My mind shouted that it had just been a nightmare, but my body couldn't help but remember what Matthew had done to me in that dream. It may have been fake, but I couldn't stop the fright from washing over my nerves. Tears formed in my eyes as I stared at Matthew. I wanted to know that everything was fine, that I really was more than just a toy for him, but my voice couldn't let me speak without bawling. Aww. Matthew quickly rubbed his eyes and stared at me, his concern obviously deepening as seeing me in tears. He slowly raised his hands to embrace me, but I flinched away, causing him to freeze in place.
Whoa! It's okay. It's alright. It's just me.
Matthew's voice tried to warm over my fear, but my feelings were still conflicted. Despite my brain knowing better, he continued to stare at me, waiting for me to relax. I could only meet his gaze warily, with both fear and sadness.
Hey, I'm gonna hug you, okay? That's all.
My heart wanted to believe him. I had to. He couldn't be as sadistic as my nightmare had depicted him. I nodded and Matthew slowly began to wrap his arms around me, hugging me to his chest.
There we go. It's okay.
I began to melt into Matthew's arms, finally feeling the fear disappear from my body. I pressed my face into his shoulder, shaking in remorse as the panic drained away. I'm sorry. Matthew simply rocked me in his arms and nuzzled the side of my head with his. He occasionally planted a kiss over my cheek and shoulder, reminding me of his love, that everything was okay. His breast became a temple for me to follow, letting me relax and feel his love all around me.
Bad dream, huh?
Yeah. Matthew gave me a soft squeeze, snuggling up to me, and I gratefully snuggled back. He would never hurt me. I couldn't let myself be disaffected by a nightmare. Hopefully, he wouldn't ask about it.
Hey, whatever the dream was, just know that everything will be alright, okay? It was just a stupid nightmare. Whenever you wake up, I'll be right here beside you, ready to make it go away.
My heart. Oh. The way he sounded so confident made my heart flutter in my chest. He truly cared for me, and that was something I adored about him. He loved me, and I loved him in return just as much. I nodded and nuzzled his shoulder, warming into his embrace further. Matthew smiled and kissed the top of my head. As I closed my eyes, he gently laid us back down onto the mattress and helped me shift to lie against him, making his chest my pillow. Thankfully, the nightmare didn't return that night. I was left with a warm embrace and a peaceful slumber until the morning rose. Even in the days that followed, the nightmare didn't come back. Neither did the mysterious voice. That's odd. My week became peaceful. Final details for the wedding became our only focus. I was nervous for it, and soon the day of the wedding had snuck up on me, and I was in my room staring at myself in my wedding dress. And then the demon lord comes to take us. Oh God, I could hardly believe it. I was getting married. My family and the guests were all at the church waiting for me to march in, but I was so nervous I hadn't left the mansion yet. It was only a 3-minute drive away, so it wasn't like I was in a terrible rush. Looking at a digital clock in my room, I marked the time. 30 more minutes. I let out a sigh. I had asked my friends to allow me to get ready on my own, so I was alone in the mansion, yet even while I was alone, the anxiousness of the wedding made me nervous. Why? Why was I just that excited? Running a hand over my dress, my fingers traced over the seam and I can't pronounce that, of the design. It was indeed my dream wedding dress down to the last detail. My parents fronted the bill as congratulations, which still made me laugh. How How they had ever come to accept Matthew was a mystery to me, especially when he was incredibly vague about who he was. I blamed the incubus magic. Before I could wander further into my nostalgic memories, I heard my phone ring, ushering me to quickly answer. Hello?
Hey, Lucky Bride. We have a little bit of a problem.
First of all, hi Naomi. And two, what's the problem? My mind quickly froze. The problem? What could possibly be wrong?
Now you're scaring her, Naomi.
Hi, Carrie.
I don't mean to. Just tell her about the rings.
What? Huh? The rings? What about the rings?
Well, apparently Matthew forgot to bring them. He knows where they are, but you'll have to bring them with you when you come.
Alright. I let out a small sigh. It wasn't a big problem. Thank goodness it was something that had an easy solution. Oh, okay, that's fine. Where did he put them?
Well, he said he put the rings in his dresser drawer. He said it was so Simon couldn't get them.
Really? I rolled my eyes. Simon wasn't that bad. Besides, he was a doll, sure. He was a doll that could move and stuff, but he wasn't evil, just a bit mischievous. That doll was very creepy, in my opinion. Alright, I'll bring them over. Meet me at the front of the church and I'll hand them over before the wedding starts.
Got it. See you soon.
See ya. I hung up and smiled. At least the issue wasn't something outrageous. That would have been mortifying. Quickly, I rushed over to the dresser, opened the drawer, expecting to see the ring box in plain sight. What the? When I looked inside, I found nothing except clothes. I opened each drawer of the dresser, checking each nook and cranny while moving clothes around to find the box. Nothing. Simon! I looked up and glanced around the bedroom, unsure of why Simon was laughing. He was really wanted to play a game right now. Simon, you evil little doll! Damn it, Simon! I hicked up my dress and began to search the halls of the mansion, determined to find Simon. He had to have the rings, and I was in no mood to play around. Simon, give me those rings! He couldn't have gone far. I decided to check this floor before going downstairs. Simon, you still... Blah. I stepped into the bathroom, looking around and hoping to find the little fur ball somewhere with the ring box. Alas, he didn't seem to be anywhere in sight. What the hell? I grumbled to myself before turning to leave. However, my eyes locked onto the bathroom mirror, something that made my heart freeze up. Around my neck was a large tattoo-like mark resembling a blue chain. It was almost glowing over my skin, and the nightmare suddenly rose into my thoughts, reminding me of the fear I had felt. What in the world? Staring at it, my body began to tremble as the mark seemed to snake around my neck like a moving shadow. For a moment, I thought the mark would tighten against my neck and from simply watching it circle over my skin. I brought my hands to my throat, trying to cover it. I didn't want to see it. It had to have been an illusion, right? I was imagining it. I hesitantly removed my hands from my neck and sighed in relief to no longer to see the chain mark. I was freaking out over nothing. I rubbed my eyes gently, relieved. Jeez, I'm getting worked up over. However, as I looked back up at the mirror, around my neck was a blue collar. I reached to my neck and gasped. I physically felt the collar around my neck. What in the world is... Get it off or close your eyes. This couldn't be happening. I wrapped my fingers around the collar and began to pull at it, trying to rip it apart and get it off my neck. It stretched slightly in my hands, but it remained fastened around my neck. Shit! I hastily ran my fingers around it, trying to find a latch or closure. When my fingers came up with nothing, I began to panic even more. How could there not be a latch? I needed to get it off me. I pulled at it again, practically choking myself in my efforts to remove it. The collar once again stretched in the direction of my pulling hands, but would not rip open. Get off! I nearly screamed, clawing at the collar and yanked it in a different direction. Why? What was it on my neck? Why wouldn't it come off? At the moment, a word came up in my mind. I wasn't sure how it got there or why I thought of the word, but it appeared in my thoughts as if it was exactly what I was thinking about. My fingers began to tingle slightly as it resonated in my mind as I opened my mouth and let it fly from my tongue. I felt my body slightly warm in reply. Salvo! The collar, somehow responding to what I had said, began to quiver around my neck before fading into black mist and disappearing in the air. I instinctively sighed in relief. It was off. Thank God. I rubbed my neck gratefully, feeling only my skin and slightly appreciating the sensation of my fingers running over my bare neck.
I knew it! I knew it! That girl has demon magic.
Oh, you son bitch. What the?
Then quit talking and let's take her!
The demon lord will be so pleased.
Off to the Abyssal Plains, the demon world. Oh, come on. Who? Before I could turn to search for the voices, I felt hands grab hold of my feet, and I looked down and lifted my dress. Two pairs of evil-looking hands had taken hold of my ankles, reaching through a dark red and purple pentagram. I shrieked, trying to pull my legs away, but couldn't stop them as they swiftly pulled me into the ground. Oh my God, I hate these people! I was pulled deeper into the darkness. I was no longer in my room. I was being dragged through the dark void, one that I couldn't escape. I reached out and clawed at the dark, trying to find something to grab onto. I tried to pull my legs away from the hands that were holding them, but couldn't pull free. What was going on? Why was this happening? Someone help me! As if someone had heard my screams, I suddenly felt the hands let go and disappear, leaving me to float in the darkness they left me in. Seto, I think. I shut my eyes. Please let this be a dream. I finally felt a surface under my feet, and I collapsed onto it. My body curled in on itself from the experience I had. I didn't dare tear my eyes away from my lap, not ready to get up just yet. The voice I heard, however, made my heart stop.
You! What are you doing here?
Hi, Diana. Blame the demon lord. Blame him. I looked up, finally having the courage to take in my surroundings. My heart stopped beating for a moment, seizing in my chest. Hi, Diana. I looked up to see 5 figures, strangers, monsters, beings that I didn't recognize except for Diana. They all looked down at me in surprise, as if I had dropped in at a very bad time. One man looked like an orc from a fantasy game without the tusks. He had broken horns and a very frightening aura around him. As he stared at me, the other male was lanky in comparison. Excuse me. More human-like, but I could almost feel power emanating from him regardless. One of the women who was staring at me had rabbit ears. Rabbit ears! They twitched on the top of her head as she looked at me and gripped her staff. She seemed harmless, yet she had animal ears. The one creature that I couldn't discern of sex of seemed more excited to see me than surprised. What freaked me out about them was that they had wings sticking out from their back and they were floating. The last woman, however, set off blah, set off alarm bells in my head as I looked at her surprised face, her hair, her eyes. Diana? Hey. As she stared, the woman turned her body towards me in recognition to the name I called her. It was her.
What are you doing here?
Again, blame the demon lord. He's the one who brought me here. And I hate him. Diana walked towards me and stared down at me. It was odd. She didn't look like a human, yet I wasn't afraid of her demon form. As it towered over me, I was more in shock as to what was going on. Hey, Seto. Before Diana could speak further, most likely to repeat herself, a figure quickly stepped up and bowed to her, kneeling beside me.
My lady, please forgive me. I felt something moving between our worlds and assumed the Demon Lord was to blame, so I intercepted his summoning of this human.
You? So I wasn't the only one who felt the change in the air.
Yeah. Diana stared at the man kneeling beside me as I kept my eyes up at her. As she turned her gaze back to me, I gulped slightly. What was she going to do with me? This all felt wrong. I was about to be married. I was about to... Hi. Hi, kitty kitty. I was about to live my happily ever after with the man I loved. Now I was in a place I didn't know with Diana and a bunch of other creatures I didn't recognize. My instinct was to... This wasn't happening. This couldn't have been happening. No way. I felt tears build up in my eyes and I lowered them to look at the floor in front of me. As my gaze fell, my lungs began to seize hard, forcing me to hiccup in sadness. I couldn't help it. I began to cry. I can't pronounce that. Why was this happening? Why was I here? If this was another nightmare, I wanted to wake up immediately. This wasn't right. I covered my face and cried into my hands, curling over myself as I let sadness run through my entire body. Please let me wake up, please. As I felt warmth suddenly spread through my body, I slowly stopped and felt fresh air rush into my lungs. What was happening? I recognized this warmth. I looked up to see Diana kneeling down with a very concerned look on her face, her visible eye glowing a warm gold color as she stared at me. Was she enthralling me? I didn't feel aroused like I felt usually whenever I was enthralled, but I felt calm and almost mellow.
Calm down.
Diana's voice seemed almost soothing, like a lullaby. However, I wasn't sleepy. I just felt quiet. The worry I had in my mind was gone. The sadness gone. Diana must have done something to make sure I wouldn't cry. I didn't know whether to thank her or be afraid. I would thank her.
Now, can you tell me what happened? Take your time and try to remember everything.
Succubus, we have no time for...
Oh, will you shut up?
Shh! Let her do her thing! The human obviously knows her. And she obviously needs help.
Right.
Thing.
Thank you.
Why did she call her Diana, though?
It's her human name.
That must have been the human name she used while she was in the human world. Smart.
All of you, please!
Silence engulfed the room as Diana looked at the floor beams behind her. She then turned back to me and held out her hand, ushering me to take in.
Can you stand?
I nodded and took her hand, standing up at last. I looked around the other beings in the room. They all kept their gaze to me, unsure of what I would do or say. Diana, however, led the conversation.
First, can you tell me what happened to you?
I took a breath, recounting everything that had happened. I was about to go to the church to be married, and then I was attacked by this darkness. A couple of hands grabbed my legs and pulled me into it, and then I fell here.
A shadow summoning.
Diana turned to one of the beings, the Lincoln man, and glared. Shadow.
One of yours couldn't have.
On my honor, it wasn't any of mine. We have nothing to gain from kidnapping a human, nor do we know who this woman is anyhow.
My lady, if I may, I clearly remember hearing imp demons in the void along with her. It must have been the Demon Lord's henchmen.
Yeah.
Those damnable creatures. That explains it.
Yeah. Diana crossed her arms and looked to me again.
Well, dear, it seems that you were to be either a new harem girl for the Demon Lord to ravish, or
Which is
bait
messed
for the
up.
boys to return to their father's side. Either way, I doubt you would have lived long had the Demon Lord gotten his hands on you.
A violent shiver ran up my spine. Was it true I would have died?
Wait a minute. This girl knows about the Demon Lord's heirs?
Yes. Hilariously enough, she was set to marry one of them, as you can see from her garb.
Right. As Diana motioned towards my dress, I realized how vulnerable I was and felt extremely self-conscious. I wrapped my arms around myself as Diana let out a sigh.
Well, since you do not belong here, the obvious thing to do is to send you home.
I couldn't help but stare wide-eyed at Diana. She was really going to send me home? Really? I couldn't believe my ears. You really would send me back?
Of course. It should be easy to do once everything is in order. It'll be like you never left the human world.
Wait, like I never left the human world? What do you mean by left the human world? Diana stared before chuckling softly and gesturing to the room and beings within it.
Dear, do you not realize where you are? You are in the demon world.
Oh, I know. My mind went blank. I couldn't be in the demon world. No way in hell. I felt myself back up against the wall behind me, suddenly afraid I was in another world. How? That was impossible. Diana stepped towards me, both of her hands softly turning to show me she meant no harm as she positioned them in front of her body.
Do not panic. We will send you back now, so there's nothing to worry about.
How will you power the spell? Bringing someone here is no easy task, but sending someone back consumes much more energy.
I'll use what energy I have now and rest. We can organize the siege another time when I fully recover. It's not like the Demon Lord can escape the corner we've trapped him in, so we do have some time to spare.
You'd waste time and energy on this human. We must strike now while the Demon Lord is weakened.
But the human doesn't belong here. She needs to go home.
Shall I prepare the return spell?
Do. I grant you permission to use my energy to power the spell.
With a nod, the Lincoln man held out his hand towards the wall. I looked over in the direction it was aimed at. Diana's shadow. I watched as Diana's shadow simply stood against the wall, mirroring the movements of the real succubus in the room before my eyes. The shadow began to morph and expand on the wall on its own. Oh man. I looked back to Diana to see her wrapping her arms around herself and curling her shoulders over as if she was in pain. Her nails embedded themselves into her forearms, and I could barely make out a painful hiss escaping her clenched teeth. Was the spell hurting her that badly? I turned back to the wall to see Diana's shadow shaking and vibrating as if it was resisting the change the man was forcing on it.
You will obey my command. Open the gates to the void, and allow passage to the world we seek.
Transitum perennan peto tranibris, ubi aperiut, ianoium, desidero.
Upon Dinah's final word, her shadow burst and expanded into an oval-shaped doorway. I stared wide-eyed at the passage before a hand placed itself on my shoulder, forcing me to look over. The one with the spear gently pressed my shoulder forward and looked down at me with almost a stern face.
You must leave now. The faster you leave, the quicker we can close the void.
And then we can't leave because of Demon Lord.
Go! Go! Go get married!
I quickly nodded and looked at the bottom of my dress, stepping forward to make a run for the passageway. However, before I can bolt towards my freedom, a snarl echoed through the room.
How dare you interfere with my summoning!
At the very moment, Diana began to scream, arching her spine and throwing her head back around her body, where red-tinted bolts of lightning flashing and stalking her form.
No! Human! Use the passage! Now!
He didn't have to tell me twice. I bolted towards the portal, diving forward as I neared it, but I was forced back by a burst of energy and a flash of red light. I fell to the floor, almost slamming my head onto the stone. Ugh!
The human will never, ever leave this world alive!
I hate you!
You spineless worm!
Close the portal! The Demon Lord might get through!
But the human...
Close it!
As commanded, the man pulled his hand back, visually forcing his arm back behind his body, and Diana's shadow quickly began to morph back into a simple shadow. The electricity around Diana faded away as she began to tip forward. The man with the spear dropped his weapon and caught Diana in his arms, cradling her to his body as she panted and gasped for air.
I don't sense the Demon Lord anywhere.
The worm has to scurry through the shadows to try and fight back. He'll be dead soon enough.
How is she, guard?
Diana seemed to look uninjured, but her body was twitching from the aftermath of the magical attack. Her visible eye was shut tight as she dug her fingers into the guard's jacket to cling to him. As her eyes opened, I saw not a blood ruby red color, but I saw a cold and unfriendly golden color painted over her iris. Her mouth opened and as she panted for air, and I could see hunger in her facial expression, but she continued to stare at the wall, not wanting to make eye contact with anyone.
There are no physical wounds, but she's been weakened. I must give her my energy so she can recover.
The man swiftly moved and hooked an arm underneath Diana's knees, lifting her up bridal style. As she clung to his jacket, shivering, the spear that had fallen to the floor faded into black and purple mist as he quickly left the room with her in his arms. My mind, however, began to panic. I couldn't go home. Why was I being forced to stay? Damn the Demon Lord, this wasn't right.
There's an imp in the castle. That is the only way the Demon Lord could have been able to interfere.
You! Guards by the door! Hunt it down!
A pair of guards that were apparently by the door saluted the one commanding them and ran off. I felt out of place, alone, terrified as to what was going to happen. The Demon Lord wanted me here, and his words pounded in my mind. How was I going to get home? How would I ever be able to go home?
Hey.
I looked up to see the winged person hovering near me before they moved and sat on their knees on the stone ground beside me.
We'll get you home, okay? Diana just needs a little rest, okay? She needs more than rest. She needs to use a different spell to send her back.
Yeah.
The Demon Lord will expect her to use the shadow spell again.
How about the normal way? I'm sure we can connect to a witch, or even the warlock she used before, to reopen a portal to the human world.
The warlock she used to get to the human world died, remember? And he was the most powerful warlock in the human world, practically a god himself. What other human could be used to open a portal without another human dying?
It was merely a suggestion. The faster we get this human home, the faster we can move on and finish off the Demon Lord.
Well, what are we going to do with the human now?
We can give her a room to rest in. Humans need sleep after all. Maybe by the time she wakes up, we'll think of a solution.
Come.
The woman with rabbit ears looked down at me and lowered her hand to me, inviting me to take it. She had a kind but concerned expression on her face, so I trusted her. I slowly took her hand and began to stand up as the fairy figure brushed off the small patches of dust that had accumulated on my dress. I couldn't do anything. I was forced to listen to the beings around me because there was nothing else I could do. Without them, I couldn't get home. My heart ached, but I had to accept my predicament.
Here, I'll bring you to the open ambassador's room. You are free to rest there for now.
All right. What about Diana? The floating person giggled softly as the woman with rabbit ears cleared her throat.
She'll be fine. She's being taken care of right now.
Why not just say she's getting fucked?
And the brute strikes again with the lack of tasteful filtering between his brain and his mouth. You still have yet to prove me wrong about my expectations of you.
Oh, God.
Keep testing me, assassin. I'm not afraid to rip your spine out of your body and use it as a back scratcher.
God, dude.
You can very well try, brute.
Ugh! Would you both knock it off?
Come, everything will be taken care of.
Before I can protest, the woman let me out of the room and into the hall. I kept my eyes down, trying to take in more of the situation I was in. I was trapped in the demon world, and Diana was out of commission. The demon lord had plans for me, but what exactly was he aiming for? I could have been bait. I could have been revenged. I didn't know, nor could I figure it out now. At least I was safe. At least I hoped I was safe. The woman led me to a room that practically screamed medieval fantasy. Everything was clean, but it still had that old age feel, as if no one had ever stepped foot in the room until that moment.
Rest here for now. When Diana is well again, we can discuss what to do.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks. I forgot your name. I'm just gonna call you Rabbit right now. I nodded to the woman before she gently curtsied and left. Closing the door behind her, I took a moment to observe my surroundings, interested in understanding the aesthetic. This was fantasy turned into reality. It was like I had gone back in time. Why, though, was the demon world really that behind in the time? Or did magic supercade technology and this was the result? Despite the situation I was in, which was beyond heartbreaking and terrible, my curiosity began to fester in my mind as if I was given a golden opportunity to learn something new. However, my thoughts began to drift, and I felt myself becoming weak and dizzy, no doubt from the shock and trauma I had gone through. I stumbled towards the bed, needing to sit down and let everything settle in without passing out. As my rear hit the mattress, however, I let out a small pleasured sigh. Holy crap, this is a comfy mattress. I felt myself fall back and my entire body simply melted into the softness beneath my body. It was like I was sleeping on a cloud. Was that possible? Demon magic may have had something to do with it, but I was certain. I lost my place. But I was certain that I was drifting into an almost blissful sleep just by lying on the blankets and mattress. Not caring that I was still in my dress, I closed my eyes and drifted to sleep. I needed the rest since Diana wouldn't be available for a while anyway. Darkness surrounded my mind, my dreams remaining silent and hushed in the cool and calm black. No nightmares appeared and no sounds were made. I was simply resting, and that was all my body needed. I let my thoughts wander in my subconsciousness, thinking about what was going to happen now. What will the boys do when they realize that I'm gone? What will he do? I imagined him finding a way through the demon world and pulling me back to where I belonged, wrapping me in his arms and swearing to never let me go. I would be relieved and we would be married just as we planned. How unrealistic was that? I had to be realistic right now. I was stuck, and the only one who seemed to be able to send me back was Diana and her companions, whoever they were. I had to trust them whether I liked it or not. Eventually I did rise from my sleep, somehow fully refreshed and calm. How could that have been?
Did you have a good rest?
I did. I turned my head to see Diana at the door, arms crossed and leaning against the door's archway. She had a look of concern and pure curiosity on her face as she awaited my answer. Are you okay, Diana? Diana stared at me, slightly shocked. Did she not expect me to ask?
Huh. Well, yes, I'm fine now that I've had proper rest.
That's good. That's good. Diana shook her head and stepped into the room, closing the door behind her.
So we need to find another way to get you back to the human world. It won't be easy, but I believe it can be done by tonight at the latest.
All right. Tonight, really? Diana nodded and crossed her arms again, leaning on the hip.
It will take time to get our shadow agents to gather the necessary supplies, but they are not hard to obtain, being that we're in a position of power. You must be lucky.
What do you mean? Diana sighed before casting a short spell. Under her breath, in front of me appeared a floating map, almost like a hologram. It showed an entire world with mountains, plains, and forest, and it all was surrounded by sea and water. Diana pointed at the marker that had a purple banner at its tips. It was marked in the center of some mountain and forest area. It was also the very center of the map.
That is where we are currently, the center of the Abyssal Plains.
Diana then ran her finger in a circle around the marker, showing a perimeter around it.
Everything we need for the spell is within this area. It will just take time to gather the materials and prepare it.
All right. I nodded, understanding the situation. I was going to hopefully be able to go home tonight, which was better than not going home at all. So what should I do until then?
My suggestion? Stay in this room. I can mark this room as off limits so that no demon may enter that would confuse you for an intruder and kill you.
All right. I gulped. I did not want to die. As Diana made the magical map disappear, she shrugged.
However, I cannot stop you from whatever you wish to do. Just don't leave the castle.
I won't, I promise. I nodded as she turned to leave. As she stepped out, Diana looked back at me with a reassuring look.
We'll get you back to the human world. I promise you that.
I know. Finally, she left me alone in the room. I let out a small sigh and looked up at the ceiling. I had to wait until tonight to actually do anything. What was I going to do? Part of me agreed with Diana's suggestion, wanting to stay in the room and be safe in case the guards didn't know who I was and would kill me on sight. My curiosity, however, wouldn't leave me alone, and wanting me to explore the castle, I was handed an opportunity to explore the castle in the demon world, and part of me did not want it to go to waste. I was torn on what to do. There was no way I was letting this chance pass me by. I stood and walked towards the door, opening it a crack and looking around. There was no one in the hall, but there were two directions to go. Which way? Left or right? I went with right. I closed the door behind me as I exited my room and began to make my way down the right corridor. Everything was definitely medieval style, and I felt a bit small in the hall. It was like I was in a fairy tale walking around in a wedding dress. It felt almost dreamlike. Excuse me. The passage seemed long, decorated with wall candles, paintings, and random curtains and flowers. It was mystical to see, and I smiled. As I approached another fork in the hall, however, I sighed. Really, how does anyone find their way around? I know, right? I looked back, however, I hadn't walked far from my room. I could turn back, yet I was heading right, so I decided to try the opposite direction this time around. I turned left and headed down the hall, greeted by more fantastical decor. The hallways began to almost drive me nuts. I found myself going upstairs, then downstairs, then rounded up in a four-way corridor. Where have I landed myself? I became frustrated. Maybe giving in to my curiosity was a bad idea. However, the sound of an argument traveled through the air and caught my attention.
And you brought me this why?
Sir, the Rebel Queen demanded it be brought here along with the other materials.
A flower is not important to the ritual. Throw it away or something.
But, sir...
I don't want to hear it! Get out!
From a nearby door, a man dressed in a dark cloak holding a white lily-like flower practically ran out. He left the door ajar but let out a sigh before turning to walk away, not noticing me. What the... I walked over and peeked in, seeing that the room was a library. It was huge, and in the middle of it, by a table covered in books, was the lanky man who cast the shadow spell before.
I know you are there, human.
He... Huh? How did he know? What? Was he able to smell me or something? The man turned to look at me from over his shoulder.
Please don't just stand there. If you wish to come in, then come in. I'm not fond of people peeking into doorways.
Sorry. Immediately I stepped into the room, not wanting to be rude. The man turned towards me and crossed his arms, taking in my full form.
Well, what may I help you with?
Oh, I was just wandering around. I didn't mean to intrude on anything.
You needn't. You'll be returned to the human world soon enough.
I bit my lip. He was right. I really didn't need to wander around if I was never going to return. Still, my curiosity was pulling me to explore the castle, and there I was in a library. Well, I simply wanted to see more of the place I happened to land in.
I see. And have you found anything of interest in your little exploration?
I found this library, didn't I?
That you have.
I like how it looks, too. The man turned back to the table as I took a moment to look around. There was so many books, it was almost dizzying to peer at them all. How much information was stored here? The man glanced at me as he continued to work on whatever he was focusing on.
I'm curious about something, human. Since you're here, you can answer this.
What is that? I turned back to the man as he straightened up and faced me once again.
Are you well versed in war?
Excuse me? That came out of nowhere. Why was he expecting a woman in a wedding dress to know about war? No, I can't say that I am. Humans tend to try and stay out of war.
Truly? I'm surprised. I've heard that your world is ruled by multiple leaders and beliefs. How are you not constantly at war?
From the tone of his voice, it almost sounded like he was mocking me. Did he think that little of humans? I glared. We try and maintain peace because we all know we're different. We don't always agree on things, but we all mostly agree that war is bad, so we avoid it. The man took one more look up and down at my form, most likely searching for some physical sign that I was lying or exaggerating. When he seemed to notice that I wasn't, he rubbed his chin gently as he leaned back against the table behind him.
Humans are such interesting creatures. You have your own societies and countries, ruled by presidents and governments. You are ununited, and yet you thrive. I wonder if the demon world can benefit from such a seemingly ignorant agreement.
Was he being serious right now? Why was he being stuck up? I crossed my arms, glaring harder at him. Why does it matter to you what the human world does? You're a demon. Things we do there don't affect anything here.
Ah, but that is where you are mistaken.
How so? The man walked around the table and gestured to the books and maps that had covered its surface.
When fighting a war, you need to look at all of the details to try and find the most efficient ways to bring your enemy down. When resolving it, you must be able to not only bring peace, but you must also know how to manage the land you have conquered in the aftermath.
Okay. I looked at the map to see multiple routes and ideas plastered over the parchment. Was he seriously doing this much research for this war? However, the man simply crossed his arms.
Unfortunately, I suppose that research on the human world would be for naught. We are two different worlds, after all. Yours is built on steel and electricity, while our world is flooded with magic and stone.
I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Why was he even talking to me at this rate? The man smirked at the agitated look on my face and chuckled. What's so funny?
I guess it's also true that humans are easily angered. Your expression gives you away so easily.
Oh, good God, dude. I growled before turning on my heel and leaving the library. Rude ass. I was better off in my room. I remained in my room until the night came. I was given food which looked like soup. The woman who gave it to me apologized, letting me know that food was scarce until the upcoming harvest, which was a couple of days away. Being that I was only staying the day, I didn't mind much. I was more concerned over what I was given to eat. It was some sort of stew with mysterious chunks swimming in its broth. It smelled surprisingly good, but who knew how it tasted? I gulped. I had to try it. I had to eat it. I hadn't eaten in 2 days, even before I came to the demon world. I was pretty certain Diana wouldn't poison me now, and I was fairly sure that she wouldn't serve me anything disgusting. I lifted my spoon that was sitting in the broth, letting it capture some of the stew as it rose. I mean, it wasn't terribly scary to look at. I gulped and slowly brought the spoon to my lips, feeling the heat emanate from the stew. A knock rapped on my door, breaking me out of my train of thought. Come in. The door opened to reveal Diana with a plate holding things I recognized, bread and cheese. I let out a heavy sigh of relief before Diana laughed.
I suggest not trying that. As good as it smells, the taste would not sit well with you.
Alright. Instantly, I moved the bowl to the nearby table, thankful that I did not have to try it. Diana handed me the plate and nodded, reassuring me that what was on it was indeed what it seemed.
It's not much, but it's human food. Eat up.
Alright, I will. I began to chow down, feeling the hunger in my stomach dissipate with each bite and swallow. The food I was eating surprisingly was delicious. As I began to crave something to drink, Diana chuckled and formed a small goblet in her hand, filled with clear liquid that I assumed to be water. I took it and drank it down, feeling my thirst quenched before I let out a sigh. I feel so much better.
I can tell. Take a moment to finish eating, then we'll head for the ritual.
I looked up at Diana, suddenly excited. Everything was prepared for. Was it possible to go home now? As if she read my mind, she smiled and nodded.
We finished the main preparations. We just need to head over and we'll start.
I couldn't continue eating. My mind went into an obsession frenzy and wanted to go home. I stood up, moving the plate and goblet to a nearby table. Let's go.
Huh? Are you sure?
I nodded, not wanting to waste any more time. I needed to get home and I was tired of waiting. Diana stared before nodding and headed for the door, opening it for me and exiting after me. As she closed the door behind her, I began to feel my heart flutter in relieved joy. I was heading home. Hey, Diana led me down the corridor to the war room where I had originally arrived to reveal the table covered in plants and artifacts of different kinds. None of it made sense to me, but I had to only assume it was what was needed for the spell to work. Diana walked to the table and took note of what she saw, nodding.
This should work.
You're in doubt?
Have to be after the last time we tried sending her home. Do we have a human anchor?
That's fair.
No, you're on your own this time. But we'll make sure you survive casting it.
This spell should work, however, because we'll be using energy material. It will only require a slice of your energy on top of these items, which your guard can refill immediately after this.
Just make sure you don't die casting it.
Diana smiled at her guard before turning to me.
So, are you ready to return home?
She didn't have to ask. I'm ready. Diana nodded once more before turning back to the table. She lifted her arms over the surface and lowered her head, muttering under her breath.
O tenebris portas, apriat nobis, largiatur exidium, desiderium.
As she spoke, the table began to glow, as did she. A dark purple aura began to surround her form as she lifted and arched her head back, staring at the ceiling. A glimpse at her eyes made me gasp. Warm golden orbs covered her body and red irises. Glowing with magic, she was deep within the spell, and I could see it slowly draw energy from her body. The items on the table began to gleam wildly, light orbs floating from them and dancing in the air above the table's surface. They began to weave back and forth with each other, almost as if the lights were dancing to a silent tune. The other demon stepped back as Diana moved her arms up and pointed to the dancing lights. Her finger pointed into the air, leading the lights to follow where it directed obediently. She drew a large circle in the air, and the lights followed like a perfect trail, spreading out and forming a large void in the air. As they finally stopped moving, they burst into a bright light, causing the demons and I to cover our eyes from it. It engulfed the room but died down just as fast, revealing a small tear in the air. Diana quickly leaned forward and dug her hands into it before the tear part, revealing my bedroom. Diana continued to pull the tear open, giving enough space for me to jump through.
Hurry and go through! This is your chance!
I wasn't going to let it go to waste. I gripped the bottom of my dress and rushed forward, using momentum to jump into the air and forward towards the void. Excuse me. I could almost reach it. I could feel the air conditioning of my room right at my fingertips.
She will never leave this world alive!
Oh, fuck you. The Demon Lord's voice rang through the air just as I saw my fingertips pass through the tear. What stopped the rest of my body was a red light and forcing me and Diana back from the opening. Ugh! I felt my body fly backwards and slam into the wall. Before I landed on the stone ground, I heard Diana as well land beside me with a painful thud. I looked up and felt my heart break as the tear became wrapped in red lightning, zipping itself closed and vanishing in the thin air. No, this cannot be.
Damn it!
That should have worked. How could it have failed?
We must have missed something. Was there anything we had forgotten?
No, I verified everything myself.
Then why was the Demon Lord able to overpower a gate spell?
I I highly doubt you know either, brute.
Stop fighting! We need to make a plan and all of you are just being stupid! Stupid, 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 stupid!
Are you alright, Isaiah?
I'm fine.
I was too lost in my mind to fully understand what was going on around me. I was so close, I felt the other side. I had almost made it home. Why couldn't I go home? Diana's grunt of pain next to me made me shoot my head towards her, and I watched her slowly push herself off the ground and glare at the table.
The Demon Lord must have done something more than simply bring her here.
What could he have done?
The Demon Lord is incapable of doing anything of the sort. His lackey imps must have done something to her.
A spell?
A curse.
I looked to the rabbit woman, seeing her stare wide-eyed at me. The other demons stared at me as well, and suddenly I felt like I was on display. Was something wrong with me?
She will not leave the demon world alive. He must have placed some sort of curse on her to prevent her from leaving this plane. In order to leave, she'd have to die.
That's a scary thought. What? My mind went blank. Did the Demon Lord really curse me? Was I forced to stay in this world until I died? I could never go back?
Are you suggesting a barrier curse?
That would explain the red energy that sealed the tear.
But dark magic like that requires
The blood of 1,000 demons. He must have sacrificed part of his army to cast a curse on her that would prevent her from leaving.
That's scary.
The Demon Lord is that desperate for her.
The only way to break that kind of curse is to kill the caster, the Demon Lord himself.
She's trapped here until this war is over.
My body began to shiver violently. The Demon Lord killed 1,000 demons just to trap me here? Why? I slammed my fist into the ground and began to scream. I want to go home. Why? I could feel the sympathy and anger in the room, but I didn't care. I was beyond livid. I was far past broken. I was seeing red. Oh, that was really bright. As my voice ripped through the air, a bright light erupted through the room once again. Everyone covered their eyes, but Diana quickly scrambled to get on her knees and covered me with her body. She held me tightly as the light invaded the space and slowly began to fade. As the light finally died, everyone moved their hands to see what had happened. In the air was a white tear that was slowly opening, facing down towards the table. Something was coming. The Incubi Brothers are coming. I could feel it in the air. The guard summoned summoned his spear and pointed it at the tear, glaring at it and gritting his teeth.
Something's coming!
In reply, Diana summoned what looked like a saber and placed it in front of us.
Ready yourselves! It could be the Demon Lord!
The other demons in the room themselves and stared at the tear, either holding a weapon or preparing a spell. I felt the air change, becoming heavier. As the tear began to grow, the energy around it began to pulsate, making everyone in the room that much more tense. I stared at the tear as well, frightened as to what was coming. Was it the Demon Lord, his minions? My mind began to cycle through fearful ideas of what was about to appear. There they are. My heart almost stopped. Falling from the tear was landing on the table where the 5 Incubi Brothers, they were piled on top of one another, having come through one at a time. However, as the last brother landed, the boys fell to one side, toppling off of the table and landing on the floor. The rebels around me stared at the fallen pile of incubi, confused and surprised. As the tear in the air closed, the ogre man was the first to lower his sword.
What the hell?
Who are they?
Careful! They could be the Demon Lord's men!
No, they're not. They're his sons. No! The rebels looked to me as I stood up, Diana following and still protecting me. And I stared at the boys on the ground. They all looked dazed and a bit shell-shocked from having fallen twice in rapid succession. I almost couldn't believe it. They were there. They were here. Bleh. There they were, right in front of me. My mind couldn't help but remember how I had first met them. They had all been on the floor of my mansion, unconscious and wounded. Now they were in front of me in the demon world. I know them. Hey! I stared at the one I was meant to marry, seeing him slowly shake his head and rise from the ground. They came to rescue me. He came to rescue me. My heart became overjoyed and full of warmth and happiness. I was going to go home. The question was, how? As the sight of the boys kept the demon's attention, a second tear opened above them, causing everyone to look up. The four women dropped down from the tear and somehow managed to fall into the arms of the incubi behind Matthew.
Whoa!
I gotcha.
Their wives.
Whoa, are you okay?
Eric!
Love, I've got you!
James!
Whoa, are you alright?
I stared wide-eyed. Their wives came too. Hey, Matthew. I watched as the boys and the girls finally planted themselves on the ground before looking around. However, Matthew instantly bolted for me, causing Diana to jump away in surprise.
Whoa!
Matthew wrapped his arms around me and instinctively tensed up from being charged at before taking in his sense and physical form. He was here. I wasn't dreaming. He really came for me and he was here holding me.
Are you okay? Are you hurt?
I'm fine. I almost couldn't believe it, but I wrapped my arms around Matthew's torso, pulling him tighter to me as I took in one more whiff of his scent. However, before I could melt into his arms in relief at his presence, he was forcefully dragged backwards.
Hold it! Hold it! Hold it!
What?
Whoa!
Huh? Why would you pull him back from me, dude? I watched as the fairy figure gripped Matthew's hoodie and roughly pulled him away from me with an angered face. Wait, hold on!
Matthew!
Before anyone could react, Matthew spun around and whipped at the fairy. They squeaked and released him, floating higher into the air.
Hands off!
You hands off!
Are you freaking serious right now? I quickly rushed over and held Matthew's hand, wanting to bring his attention away from the fairy and back to me. I reached up and grabbed Matthew's face, pulling him to me and kissed him. His eyes stared in shock before he melted against my lips and held my head in his hands, kissing me deeper. I closed my eyes in sync with his as I lowered my hands and wrapped them around his shoulders. I was beyond happy to feel him again. At the moment, I didn't even care how he had found me. I was just happy that he was there with me again. Unfortunately, Matthew and I couldn't stay close for long. The fairy shouting caused us to pull apart to look at them.
He has the same aura as the Demon Lord!
Can this fairy shut up right now? Rubbing her head and glaring at the fairy, Diana stepped up, crossing her arms and rubbing her temple.
Well, he is the son of the Demon Lord.
That's not what I meant! I'm saying... Ugh!
Come on, let's get you home.
Matthew gently took my hand and tugged me towards his brothers. However, this time Diana stepped in front of Matthew.
I'm afraid she can't leave.
And why not?
And it's hard to explain, Matthew.
She's been cursed.
Yeah.
She can't leave this plane without dying. But if you wish to kill your bride to bring her back to the demon world, then be my guest.
Matthew glared at Diana and stepped in front of me protectively.
Why should I believe you?
It's true, Matthew. The demon lord cursed me, so I can't leave. I placed my hand on Matthew's shoulder, causing him to turn his head and look at me in surprise. His expression morphed from anger to sudden fear.
What? You can't be serious.
I am serious, Matthew.
We are, but don't worry. We plan to kill the one who cursed her soon enough.
When?
1 week's time.
1 week? What?
Where is this number coming from, Succubus?
We need to fully prepare ourselves for the final stage, which I'm certain will only take a couple of days. We've pinned him into a corner. The demon lord will fall.
That's rather bold to assume.
Right.
She's right, though. We can prepare everything in that time frame, right?
And if he does the same and attacks us before then?
He won't.
I watched as Diana walked over and cleared the table of the materials they had gathered for the gate spell, revealing a physical map of the Abyssal Plains. She pointed to a spot on a map, a peninsula surrounded by water labeled as the Decaying Sea.
We'll cast a barrier spell along the edge of the peninsula and around the castle. He and his army won't be able to move from that spot until we break it ourselves, which will be during the siege.
Where would we get the energy needed for that kind of spell?
We won't be using energy.
The other rebel demons in the room suddenly tensed up, staring at Diana in surprise. What was she going to do?
My lady, you're not suggesting...
The demon lord has shown how far he is willing to go to win this war. It's only fitting to show the extent we'll go to in response.
As much as I agree with you, this seems a little rash.
Right.
What are you guys talking about?
Are they allowed to know?
I plan to put a barrier curse around the demon lord's castle and army. It's temporary, so it won't need the blood of 1,000 demons. But it will need the sacrifice of at least 1 demon life.
And I assume you'll be sacrificing one of my soldiers.
Right.
Is this our only option?
There are other options, but they will most likely take a lot of energy to pull off.
It just depends on what we want to do. If we want to do this immediately, then the barrier curse is indeed the best option.
I'm not opposed to performing the curse. As rash as it is, it will make our lives easier in the long run.
You expect me to hand over one of my men?
What
My
other choice
soldiers
do we
joined
have,
the rebellion
dude?
to kill the demon lord, not to get their throats slit before even seeing the final battle?
It's wrong, but can we really afford to spend any more energy? Diana already spent a lot trying to send the human back.
What is the other option?
The rabbit woman and the fairy moved towards the map and pointed at the peninsula.
We could form tall rock walls around the castle. Box them in.
It will take a lot of our energy, but we can recover in that week period.
And what will stop the demon lord from tearing down the walls?
I can imbue the walls with holy magic.
And the Incubi and I looked at him, all of us equally surprised. The demon with holy magic? How?
How the fuck did you get holy magic? You look and smell like a demon.
The guard held up his wrapped hand, letting his beads around the jangle with a sudden motion.
I've had the ability to use holy magic ever since I was taken in by my lady's family. There's no doubt that I am a demon, but I can't recall how I gained this ability.
How is holy magic demon than demon magic?
It's white magic. Unlike demon magic, holy magic isn't so finicky. Think of it as warding or dispelling magic. You can't bless air or anything that doesn't have physical form, but you can bless objects to fight back against other forms of magic.
If the walls were blessed with holy magic, the Demon Lord wouldn't be able to escape until we released him.
Okay.
Why not just trap him forever?
That's idiotic. He would still be a threat regardless. Holy magic doesn't last forever, and stone will crumble eventually.
He's right. We wouldn't be able to keep the walls up forever.
The situation became more and more complicated the more we discussed it. How were we going to go about this?
We can't just sit around and debate this forever. The longer we wait, the more we risk him striking back at us.
But is it worth killing someone to trap him?
When we finally strike, we will lose hundreds, if not thousands, of soldiers anyway. What difference will it make to lose one more life on top of this?
Soulless fuck.
We can still cage him in.
I bit my lip. It was really a tough decision, a curse or a trap. Which was better? Both had their prices, but we had to choose one. From the look of it, no one wanted to speak up, so I felt the urge to say something. Maybe I would be the one who would determine everything? But which method would be the best choice? Everyone in the room looked at me as I finally spoke. We needed to be better than the Demon Lord. He was willing to sacrifice lives to trap me here, but it only showed how desperate he was to win and how little he valued life. He would lose this war one way or another. It wasn't worth losing someone who could help turn the tide to a war. When can we put a barrier up?
We can leave after this, meeting is over.
Are you sure this is the best choice?
The curse isn't the only option. We need to show that we're better than him. Everyone nodded, some in reluctance, while the others did with confidence. I looked up at Diana just in time to catch a twitch from her visible eye, but she shook her head and looked to the rabbit woman.
Are you quite positive this will work?
I am very certain. Since it will be just 3 of us going, we can shadow travel there and be back by the morning.
Diana looked at her guard and nodded.
Very well. If you believe it will work, then I trust you will make sure it does.
As the guard nodded and slightly bowed, the other demons seemed to let out a sigh of relief. Were they worried about performing the curse? Diana shook her head before crossing her arms and looking directly to me.
So, since you'll be here for a while, we might as well give you names that you can use to refer to everyone here.
Are we getting human names?
Must we?
Diana rolled her eyes and gestured to the demon, naming them on the fly.
For the sake of time, we'll use simple names. This is Rabbit, our magic advisor. Sergeant, commander of our armies. Shadow, leader of our assassins. And Faye, our nomadic force ambassador.
Sergeant? I'm a commander, succubus. Shouldn't my name be Commander?
It's easier on the tongue, though, to say Sergeant.
Right. Agree.
My lady, what shall they call me?
Diana looked at Seto for a moment before turning towards me, a look of seriousness emanating from her eyes.
You may call him Sero. He is my personal guard, and he is always by my side.
The other demons in Seto seemed to be surprised. Was Seto his true demon name? Why would she give me his true name?
Are you sure?
Call him only if your life depends on it.
All right.
Do not abuse this permission.
Her eyes seemed to burn as she gazed into mine, full of hard intent and warning. I mentally noted her seriousness as she ran a hand through her hair.
Well, now that we have a plan and introductions are out of the way, I believe we can end this meeting. We have a lot to accomplish in 1 week.
All right.
What about us? You don't expect us to sit around.
Actually, I do. You all don't belong on the battlefield.
What are you talking about?
I will not take untrained and unarmed beings into a war zone.
Hold on. I interjected, stepping forward and crossing my arms at Diana. She seriously wasn't going to make us stay back while she fought the Demon Lord, was she? Diana squinted at me, pressing her lips together to a fine line. However, I meant what I said. We can fight too.
You expect me to trust that you can fight in a war?
Let me and my brothers train then. We're demons, for fuck's sake. We know how to fight.
The boy stared at Diana as she turned her head towards Sam. He was right, though. They knew how to train, so they knew how to fight. If they fought with the rebellion, there would be a better chance of winning this war.
You all realize this is a war, correct? You can die here.
We understand completely.
We do as well.
Diana could only stare at her group as... Bless you. As we challenged her proclamation, I wrapped my hand around my fiance's arm, frightened at the idea of participating in a war, but knowing that we needed all the strength we could muster to finish off the Demon Lord. This was the only way that I could go home. Defeated, Diana sighed and rubbed her temples.
Very well. I can't exactly keep you here like prisoners, so it will be up to you if you choose to train for battle. However, I highly suggest just staying here and allowing us to handle it.
I nodded, as did the others. This was really happening. We were going to kill the Demon Lord, as we had 1 week to either prepare for war or wait it out. Diana turned towards me and looked down at my outfit. I had nearly forgotten I was still in my wedding dress until Diana pointed at my chest.
Lumen infere, bellum tabescere, serene.
I stared at her, unsure why she was speaking in Latin, until I felt the fabric around my body shift and change. I quickly looked down to see my wedding dress morph into an outfit that looked perfect for the demon world. The white top shifted into a long-sleeved oversized tunic with a leather corset and vest, while the bottom part of the gown split and wrapped around my legs, forming into dark leggings. My shoes stretched into long high-knee boots.
Oh wow! That looks really good on you.
I blushed, getting used to the feel of the outfit. The corset wasn't tight, but it was still something new along with the rest of the garb. Matthew, however, smiled down at me and kissed my forehead.
You look really cute.
Thanks.
Faye, Rabbit, you both should finish your preparations and head over to the Demon Lord's castle for the spell.
How are you going to get there?
I'll get us there, no problem.
Just make sure we don't get stuck there or lost.
Right.
No promises.
Sarah, make sure the job is done.
I shall, my lady.
Seto, Faye, and Rabbit began to make their way out of the rooms as Diana turned to me and my group as they left. Diana let out a small sigh.
I will take you to some rooms you may rest in.
Thank you, Diana. Diana merely nodded and led our group out of the room towards our new temporary rooms. The entire experience was not something I expected to go through, especially since it was now interfering with my wedding. I was trapped in the demon world under a curse I couldn't break without the demon lord being killed, and I was expected to wait. The entire journey to my room became one filled with mild anger within me. At least Matthew was here to help me through this, but I still couldn't help but let a situation sink underneath my skin. This wasn't fair at all. I knew Matthew could sense my anger as he lightly squeezed my hand, which was gently cupped in his as he walked beside me.
Hey, what's wrong?
I let out a shaky sigh and looked to him, letting it go. It's just unfair, you know. This whole thing has become a large, complicated mess, and I gritted my teeth and squeezed Matthew's hand back. I didn't want to complain as things were going to be fixed soon, but it was still infuriating to think that I couldn't do anything immediately. Matthew slowly released my hand and wrapped it around my shoulders.
Hey, don't worry about it, alright? Think about it as a vacation or something.
A vacation? Matthew grinned and nodded, hugging me slightly to his side.
Yeah, a vacation to, see new sights?
I couldn't help the amused smile on my face as Matthew tried to make me feel better. It was another reason why I adored him. He did his very best to make sure that I was happy. Despite the crappy situation we were in, I was thankful for that. I wrapped my arm around him and nodded. Thanks, Matthew. Matthew smiled and nodded before kissing my cheek.
You're welcome. Anything for you.
Okay. I am actually thinking of ending the stream here and continuing this another time. Either this or more of Yakuza 5 with Haruka's story. So I'm going to see who I can raid. Give me 1 second, you guys. Alright, let's go and raid Goon. Alright. I'm going to go raid Goon, and I hope that you all have enjoyed, and I will see you guys in my next stream for whatever I decide to play next. Either more Seduce Me to the Demon War, or more of Yakuza 5. And I know in Yakuza 5 we're gonna be close to Akiyama's chapter because he's kind of I don't know the right word to use, but yeah. Yeah, let's go raid Goon, and I'll see you guys in my next stream. Bye!